The Honourable Leader of the Second Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Last week in committee, we heard presentations about Bill 8, a bill that scraps more than a century of putting public notices in newspapers. Under this bill, instead of the government actively telling citizens what they're doing, citizens will have to do the work of digging up information on how the government may be undermining the environment, public health, human rights, water protection, securities regulation, municipal boards, even the ability of the government to seize people's property when they've been charged but not convicted of a crime. Bill 8 is against the public interest. It has no public support. It is a bill so bad this government has said they have no intention of proclaiming the offending sections. Since that's the case, why doesn't this government just remove the offending parts of the bill?
The Honourable Minister for Sport, Culture and Heritage.
Well, thank you so much, Madam Speaker. The member opposite talks about communication, and we talk about modernizing the way we communicate here in Manitoba. For years and years, 17 years as a matter of fact, the members of the residents of Manitoba were left in the dark under the NDP government. We're going to modernize the way we communicate. We're going to provide Manitobans opportunity to have access to information 24 hours a day, 365 days of the year, Madam Speaker.
The Honourable Leader of the Second Opposition on a supplementary question.
Madam Speaker, one of the witnesses at committee suggested...
Order.
One of the witnesses at committee, Madam Speaker, suggested that Bill 8 was introduced because the Premier doesn't get along particularly well with the media. Earlier this year, when the Winnipeg Free Press reported the Premier hadn't paid luxury taxes on his Costa Rican mansion for years, the Premier sued and said he has always paid his taxes. In August, he settled his outstanding tax bill, which was a tax levied on luxury homes, to help pay for affordable housing in Costa Rica. So the Premier has not, as he claimed in April, always paid all the taxes he owes. The Winnipeg Free Press story was true, but it was also suggested at committee that the Premier has not yet dropped his lawsuit.
He also used
Does the Premier still have an outstanding lawsuit against the Free Press for accurately reporting that he failed to pay his taxes? And if so, will he drop the suit and apologize to Manitobans?
The Honourable First Minister.
Speaking of the carbon tax, Madam Speaker, I want to make it clear to members that the federal Liberal government is attempting to develop a two-tier carbon tax, which the member opposite fully supports. It has exemptions for Quebec, which would allow Quebec to have a tax level of 1/3 approximately of what would be imposed on Manitoba. That in itself is indefensible, but it also makes excuses and exemptions for other provinces to the east of the Ottawa River, like Newfoundland and New Brunswick. We learned yesterday that in New Brunswick, for example, the federal government is going to exempt coal-produced power. Now, Madam Speaker, the federal government under the Liberals, which this member supports, wants to impose a massive tax burden on the people of Manitoba while not respecting Manitoba's green record. At the same time, it will not impose anything but lower-level taxes on other provinces to the east, and it doesn't require them to make green advances like we've already invested in. Now, I'm going to give the member another opportunity to stand up for Manitobans instead of standing up for what's wrong about this plan from the federal Liberal government.
The Honourable Leader of the Second Opposition on a final supplementary.
We should all be concerned, Madam Speaker, with this government's approach to Bill 8 in the media. It's an assault on the public's right to know from a Premier who is willing to sue the media for stories he knows are true. This is not normal behaviour, Madam Speaker, and it's a pattern that continues. When the Winnipeg Free Press broke the story that the member from Emerson had made disgusting comments to legislative employees, and had been for years, this Premier's response wasn't an open door and due process, it was the threat of a lawsuit. The first response to an allegation of harassment was to use lawyers to threaten and intimidate the media in an attempt to suppress the story.
That's what happens.
The Premier has claimed there is no wrong door and that people just have to approach him and that he followed his party's own standard procedure. Is this government going to stop marking its own homework and create an independent integrity commissioner who can investigate and enforce harassment and conflict of interest claims alike?
The Honourable First Minister.
As opposed to the previous practice of the NDP government of covering up and concealing problems of harassment within government, we took a totally different approach, Madam Speaker, and embarked on consultations with the civil servants of our province, developed an intelligent strategic plan, advanced training opportunities and awareness opportunities for all in the civil service. I encourage the member to use those programs. I encourage him to cooperate with us in making sure this is a safer place to work. I encourage him to speak up when the Prime Minister takes free vacations from the Aga Khan as well.